Hello and welcome to a racetrack in Cape Town. You join me in the latest Honda Civic Type R, a car I reviewed recently and which I absolutely loved driving, but I didn't absolutely love looking at it.
And I am in this, the EK9. No, this is not a Honda Civic VTEC. This is the EK9 Civic Type R. And today, Shiro and I will be joined on track by every generation of Type R.
Over 5 generations, the Civic Type R has become a cult classic, building up a legion of hardcore enthusiasts who are simply obsessed with the iconic Japanese hatchback. We've gathered them all for a special day out on the track. The aim today was to compare the older, naturally aspirated Type Rs to the more modern, turbocharged generations, and to work out which one we liked the most. And after a brief chat with the owners where we discussed how stock their cars were, we headed out in the first ever Type R.
Alright, this is it. My first time in the first ever Honda Civic Type R.
This is going to be a special moment, my friend. I just drove it early on, and it's just better than I thought it would be.
In fact, to this day, this engine remains one of the most powerful naturally aspirated engines of its size, and you could certainly hear it. To shed some weight, Honda pretty much just took out all of the sound-deadening material.
This is Genesis.
Yeah.
This is literally the first.
But it's a special car. Normally aspirated 1.6, 136 kilowatts from a 1.6 liter engine. This is the 1999 model, and this car revs to 8,400 RPM.
I don't want to do that though, it's not mine.
The owner said that you should do it.
No way.
Yeah.
I love these guys. They're the best. Okay, here we go.
Here we go.
Third
Here we
gear.
go. This is it.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Foot flat.
Foot flat.
4,000. 5,000. 6,000. Oh wow, something just happened. 7,000. 8,000.
Oh, you chickened out. You chickened out.
Next up was the generation affectionately known as the minivan. If ever there was a sleeper, this was it. With 158 kilowatts or 212 horsepower and a dry weight of just 1,200 kilograms, this model made use of the excellent helical limited slip diff, which made it stickier than Marmite on your favorite carpet.
The year is 2001, and the Fast and Furious hits our screens. At the same time, Honda releases this, the EP3 Civic Type R. Now don't be fooled by that shopping trolley look and box-shaped exterior. This is a very, very special car. In fact, this is the JDM version of the EP3. Well, Honda did a very strange thing. They sent all the parts to the UK, got the UK to build the car, and shipped it back to Japan and sold this model there as a Japan-only model. What that means is you get extra power, you get trick suspension, and you get an engine that sounds like this. Yes, the nose pushes a little bit, but thanks to that LSD, you can just tuck it in and get on the power. And you can take it all the way to the 9,000 RPM red line like that.
I'm sure that's a stock exhaust. Yeah, it must be stock.
The FN2 represented a radical new design which made the Type R look like it was from the future. However, this Euro-only model had gained weight and lost power and used a simplified torsion beam rear suspension, making it slower than the car it replaced.
This is the FN2 for fans of codes. I know Honda owners love codes. Why do they love codes so much? I'm trying to understand that. Anyway, FN2 2-liter engine, 147 kilowatts as standard. It was actually slightly down on power on the car that came before it, but there were some hotter versions. And from what I remember, this car didn't get rave reviews. Even though it was an all-new chassis, it was maybe just not as enthralling, not as captivating as the models that had come before it, even though the model before it was derided a little bit for looking like a minivan. But I mean, this is not slow. It's very, very firm as well. Getting used to how high these Hondas rev is just weird. It doesn't come naturally. I get to around 6,000 and I think I absolutely have to change now, but you don't. You can just keep pushing all the way to over 8,000 RPM. Oh, that is fantastic. I don't know if this is my favorite of the day, the FN2, but this is certainly not a boring car. This is not a car you would ever describe as dull.
And this was the FN2's biggest problem, the FD2. Sold at the same time as the FN2 but only in Japan, the FN2 received rave reviews. With 222 horsepower developed at a manic 8,000 RPM, this might have been the first ever Type R four-door sedan, but it wasn't much heavier than the Integra Type R, and Honda threw in some engineering tricks it had learned from developing the NSX.
So this is the most special car here. This is the one that was never sold outside of Asia, never sold in South Africa. It's the FD2, and it's the Asian version of the FN2, which we also have here today.
Ooh,
I'm getting good at this.
Nailed it. Well, this one comes with almost 20 more kilowatts. And
Then the Euro version.
Than the Euro version, yeah. But also what's special about this car is the chassis. It's got an aluminium chassis that isn't welded. It's actually held together by glue.
Like glue.
Yeah.
You see, now I'm not an engineer, but personally I wouldn't glue a car together. So naturally aspirated, obviously, this would have been the last of the naturally aspirated Civic Type R's.
And these cars were unfortunately put to pasture because of emissions laws.
And apparently they only built about 13,000 of these.
13,000.
So this is a rare car.
Very rare
Wow.
car. Not many in South Africa, and not many in this condition either.
Yeah. I mean, the owner was telling me that the first time he laid eyes on it, he just said to the guy who owned it, he said, one day I'm going to own that car.
And here we are today.
And now he does. What a champ.
At this point, we had driven all of the naturally aspirated Type Rs, and it was time to decide which one was our favorite.
Ernest, I'm a bit worried.
Why's that?
Are these guys going to beat me up if we don't choose their car?
Probably.
Don't say that. All right.
It was a difficult decision. We debated it. We looked at which one spoke to us the most, which one of these cars we connected with the most, and which one impressed us the most, and which one made us feel like it carried over the ethos of the original Type R. And the car that does that best is the Honda Civic EP3 JDM spec.
The minivan.
The minivan.
Wow, we are going to be so popular after this.
With that difficult decision made, it was time to hop into the new turbocharged Type Rs. The world of motoring has changed drastically since the first Type R debuted, and cars have changed drastically too. We wanted to take the two newest cars out for a proper shakedown to find out if the latest generations still offer that same spirit which has made this nameplate an icon.
Alrighty, I've kind of lost track of how many Type Rs I've driven, if I'm honest, today. But I'm in the 5th generation now, FK2, the model that was on sale just before the one that's currently in showrooms. And interestingly, this car had the same power output as the current model, at least in South Africa, 228 kilowatts, 400 newton meters of torque. And they carried this engine over from this car and this gearbox into the new car. And 2 years ago, we did a track test out here at Killarney where we had BMW M2, Audi RS3, Merc A45, and this exact Honda Civic Type R. And it was only 2 seconds off the Audi RS3 on a standing start hot lap. Can you believe it? 2 seconds on a standing start. This is one quick car. It held the Nürburgring record as well before the new one came along. And I know Ernest is just loving being in that car.
Come on, Cheeto, quicker. Let's go. So I'm in the FK8 Civic Type R. I've disabled the auto blip because even though the computer can do it better than me, I still want to have fun with it. The new one is exceptionally fast. The levels of grip on this car are just phenomenal. Much higher than the older versions. And that's to be expected. But what isn't to be expected is that you do still get that Type R essence, but how much of it is left?
Man, I am converting to the religion of Type R today. All right, let's pull into the pits because I think Ernest and I need to swap cars quickly. Right, here we go.
Chiro's behind me now, trying to keep up.
See if I can catch him on the main straight.
Chiro just gone past me. Where are you going?
Woo! Hard on the brakes into turn 1.
Are we playing that game? Are we? Chiro hard on the brakes into the corner. Getting a little bit squirrely there. Oh!
After a good few hot laps in the latest car, I was properly impressed at how easy it was to drive very quickly. You can take it to the limit, but it always feels like it's got your back.
Honda have taken the spirit of Civic Type R and made it more accessible, made it easier to live with. And maybe that verdict is going to upset some people. Maybe that's not what a Civic Type R should be. I mean, who wants a Civic Type R that nobody thinks is hardcore? There's still a Civic Type R there.
These are undoubtedly some of the best hot hatches ever. And to get to drive them all back to back was a unique and special opportunity. Over 21 years and 6 generations, Honda have undoubtedly turned the Type R into a legend. But which car is the best car here?
Ernest, this has been a hell of a lot of fun, but we have some work to do now.
Yeah.
We have to answer a question, fairly straightforward, yes or no. Are the modern Type Rs, the turbocharged Type Rs, worthy of the badge? For me, I don't think we'll ever see cars like that again. There are too many safety regulations, too many emissions restrictions, etc., that prevent cars from being like that, from being as edgy as that. However, modern cars, a lot safer, a lot quicker. So for me, I'm quite happy to leave the past behind and move into the future. Are you with me on that one?
I'm totally with you on that. And the answer for me is no, but that's okay.
So no, but that's okay. And I have one more question for you.
What's that?
What's the best car that we've driven today?
The EP3 takes it, eh?
So that's your overall winner.
Yeah.
Do you want to know which one my favorite is?
Which one is it?
That one.
No! Wow!
That one does the most for me. It really does. That car made that one feel soft.
Yeah.
And when I drove that, I thought this thing is extreme, this thing is hardcore, but that thing is more hardcore.
I get it.
And for me, it would be hard to live with. I must be honest, it would be hard to live with, but that for me is a Type R. Ernest, we could literally do this all night, and we probably will later over a beer, but we have run out of light. So all that's left for me to say is thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that, maybe give it a like and definitely subscribe to be the first to see our videos as they drop. Yeah, definitely do that.